Alright, hello guys. Been a while. I mainly was I just needed to take a break for everything. Stuff was going on. I was actually getting homework for a while there. Um, I'm actually in Ultimate Frisbee, and I had my last game today. So that's that. Um, I have a pretty good game here today for you guys on Pokemon Showdown. And this is a team I haven't shown you guys before. Um, I haven't played around with it too much, and it does need some tweaking. But I was pretty satisfied with the synergy that it somehow has when I threw it together randomly. So, I mean, looking at my opponent's team, uh, what I immediately saw was how big of threats are on his team. Um, Rotom is always something to look out for because I know it can do some major damage. And Chinchino is actually a huge threat to this team as it outspeeds everything. My Galvantula is not Scarf but Expert Belt, so keep that in mind. I figured I would do a play-by-play on the key plays. I figured I would pause and do an analysis because it really did come down to the wire. And a Pokemon that I really had to play around was Quillfish because that thing always gives a problem. And my team is, if you haven't noticed already, basically all physical attackers, which is a problem. But I think it is something that if I was to change out any pokes on this team, I wouldn't like it. I mainly am just worried about movesets, which are a little flexible for some of the Pokemon, and I can talk about that as well. So let's just get into the game here. So I lead off with my Aerodactyl, and he leads off with Quillfish. Now, right off the bat, I see Quillfish, and I don't know how this dude plays yet, so I just want to prevent him from T-waving and spiking all over the place. So right off the bat, I'm just going to start off with the Taunt. Now, he isn't a bad player, so he's Waterfall. I am the Sash set, though, so I would have been able to live that. I just get my rocks. Aerodactyl's pretty reliable for that. I like that set. So now he has Quillfish in, and I bring in Galvantula. Just go for a Volt Switch here, getting priority. Now he brings in Rotom, and I'm going to bring in my Absol. Now, this is an Absol I haven't exactly ran too much before, but I think I'm definitely liking this set because I always try to pull off a Scarf set or a sub Life Orb set, but this one is 4 attacking Life Orb set with Pursuit, Night Slash, Sucker Punch, and Superpower. And you might suspect that it would be good against the Rotom, right? He's going to want to switch out, preserve his Rotom. So I go for a Pursuit, and what comes next is actually a huge surprise. He has Will-O-Wisp. Now, I was contemplating running Lumberry, but instead I chose Life Orb. Now, actually, in this case, I think even though I did get burned, Lumberry might have made this a worse situation for me, as you see this player. So I am now burned. My Pursuit still has 32%. So I haven't seen a Rotom like this before, so I go for Sucker Punch, expecting like a T-Bolt, but instead he has Pain Split. So that definitely threw me off. So I know now that I can't really go for Sucker Punch anymore because he's just going to be using support moves. So I go for Night Slash, and I do over half still. So that is definitely good. Now he doesn't carry T-Bolt but Shadow Ball, and I live on 3%, and that definitely was a key part in the match. So I took down his Rotom still, and it's a double down. So I'm gonna bring in my fastest thing and my Volt Switcher on the team, Galvantula. But he brings in Chinchino, which is a huge problem. It is something that I can't handle easily. So I had a couple of choices here. I could bring in Druddigon and get the rough skin damage off the tail slap if he goes for it though, because Galvantula is weak to Rock Blast. So it was either I bring in Druddigon and risk taking a Rock Blast instead of a Tail Slap to get off the rough skin damage, or I could go into my physically defensive Dusknoir, which is the play that I do. So I bring in Dusknoir, and he goes for the Tail Slap. Now, that is very important that I do not take damage here, because I'm going to bring up something later in the match that may have been a different factor. So he brings in Lilligant here on the switch. I expected him to switch into either Quillfish or possibly even Magneton, not Lilligant. So let's just continue playing here. Dusknoir is the thing that uh, I would like to be asleep the most. He's definitely bulky. He can take hits still. And there's nothing like immediately that I'm gonna have to do with Dusknoir. So I bring in my specially defensive Mandibuzz, and I haven't had a lot of success with this Pokemon before, but it is probably the MVP of this match. So I just whirlwinded out. Hidden Rock only does 28.8% after +1. And now, I'm just going to pause it here. You're going to see later why this is important. But that Wild Charge did 22.1%. So right away, right off the bat, I know that this isn't banded. This is something that I really did worry about. In the back of my mind, I was wearing Scarf. And I don't run any Scarfs, so that means this Emboar could be a huge threat to my team next to Chinchino, because they're both fast Pokemon. At this point in the game, I knew I would have to play correctly, or else I would lose. So I take 22.1%. I'm left at 85. I'm trying to prevent my Dusknoir taking as much damage as possible. Yeah, it's the one thing that I have that I'll be able to take is from predicting the switch out. Here, I go for Earthquake. So the Lilligant doesn't obviously die from this, right? So I did Earthquake because I thought that Dragon Claw would be way too obvious. So I went into Magneton. It turned like the consequences of me using Earthquake wasn't too bad, but maybe possibly even a Fire Punch would have been a good choice here. But Earthquake is what I do, and it happens to work out well because I just switch out into Mandibuzz here, knowing I take any one of his hits, and he goes for Giga Drain, and that does absolutely nothing. Um, so I roost up here, trying to preserve as much health as possible, and I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna pause it after this next play. He predicted something, and I just foul play him. Now, Mandibuzz is MVP for a couple reasons. First one is being able to take these hits from Lilligant so well that otherwise would possibly sweep through my team by itself. And being able to take overall hits from everything. And the most important reason why it is MVP is the amazing feat that it's about to pull off. I know I can live 5 hits of Rock Blast, so I stay in hoping he doesn't crit me twice. If he crits me twice, it's GG. I live in Foul Play on a base 65 poke Mandibuzz for attack. Takes out the Chinchino. It had to have been max attack. And this was key because I was contemplating running Brave Bird earlier before this match. And if I was running Brave Bird, I would have lost the game here. But Foul Play saved me the game. So, realizing that Mandibuzz could still be of use later, like if I can get in while Quillfish is out, I could roost up. So I decided to switch out into Druddigon because it's pretty good resistance to Magneton. And he just brings out his Quillfish, and I get the Intimidate off. Or he gets the Intimidate off, my bad. And so here was the chance that I was thinking that I could bring a Mandibuzz. But he goes for Lyra Spikes. And this is where I thought that I could be in trouble. I realized that this Quillfish might not be as easy to take out as I thought it would be. So I see those spikes, and I see the continual damage that my Pokemon can take. The damage that I might not be able to live a couple hits from that Emboar or that Magneton later. So I'm now in a Mandibuzz. I see a chance to roost up after he waterfalls me, and my bad, I whirlwind. So I whirlwind there. Seriously, sorry guys. I whirlwind there, fearing him to just be able to get up a whole bunch of layers of spikes, like all three instead of just two. So I looked. In another key part of this was the fact that instead of volt switching on the Mandibuzz, he stayed in and just T-bolted the Mandibuzz. So now he's in with Magneton, and I can easily just bring in Droidegon and EQ because everything left on his team is weak to it. And I'm choice banded, by the way, so even Quillfish would probably get 2-hit KO'd by it. And if he had volt switched, I don't know how this match would have turned out differently, figuring that possibly this is Scarf, maybe Violet. I never figured out in the end. But he stays in here and just T-bolts me to get as much damage off as possible, and I'm able to take him out with Earthquake. Now, I know that Droidegon's running low on HP here, but I realize his value left, so I switched into Dusknoir and went for Superpower. That is really important because that is the less damage that my Dusknoir is taking, and I figured that he would be Choice Scarf locked in on this. So I knew that he would switch out, so I make an aggressive switch back into my Droidegon after Quillfish gets the Intimidate off on Dusknoir. So I am easily going to be able to just take out this Quillfish here with Choice Banded Droidegon's Earthquake. Because after, when Intimidate isn't off on Quillfish, it honestly can't take physical hits too well that it doesn't resist. So I can do like at 81% after Rough Skin. It probably did help me out. And now here was very situational. I realized that Emboar is Choice Scarf. Now I don't have any Choice Scarf Pokemon yet. So what I figured was that I would go into Dusknoir, be able to take his hits, hopefully, and wake up an EQ for the game. So I go into Dusknoir, and yeah, I will get two-shot by it. So at this point I'm like, crap, it's G. I don't forfeit, thankfully. I go into Galvantula and just pray somehow something happens, and I'm able to outspeed him. I outsped the Choice Scarf Emboar. And as you can see, he's Jolly Scarf. He's Jolly Scarf, as he told me later after this, confirming that he's Choice Scarf over here. Or not, I'm sorry. He's not Jolly, he's Adamant. So because he was Adamant, I was able to outspeed him by 2.5 points. If he was just Jolly, it would have been his game. Possibly. Now that's where I bring in some of the other things that went on. Now, it may not have seemed like much earlier, but when I said pay attention to, let me just skip to it. When I had to bring in my Dusknoir here, and I didn't take any damage, right? Good. So he brings out Lilligant. Let's continue on. Here, I bring in Dusknoir here to take a Wild Charge. Now, he's Adamant, so he's going to be doing more damage than Jolly. And I take 22%. So, what I'm thinking is, if he was Jolly instead of Adamant, the damage that he would have done to Dusknoir would have been little enough to the point where I may possibly have been able to live one Wild Charge and 2 Flare Blitzes towards the end there after 1 layer of spikes. I don't know. Realize I do have lefties going, so possibly. He did do 40-ish%, but if that unstabbed Wild Charge towards the beginning did less, it possibly would have still been my game. So yeah, it was definitely a close game. First time coming back in a while, and I'm glad I was able to pick up something for you guys. So yeah, see you guys.